appreciate X Reality Academy for having me. I know we ran into some technical difficulties, but I thank everyone for your persistence and your dedication here in joining us this Saturday morning. And as soon as our host Dom or anyone gives me the clearance, I will share screen and I will dive in because I have so much. I could talk about this a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Ipono, for joining us today. And yeah, I will pass the baton for you. Yeah, sorry that everything's happening today. Yeah, thank you.
No worries. Yeah, I hope you're good, Dom, and we're with you in all that you do.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you everyone for joining. My name's Hipólito Imani Cararona. I'm a molecular biologist, cellular biologist, and a scientist in the biotech industry here in Silicon Valley. And I'm a medical XR technologist. And this is the intersection that we want to explore today. And so I'm excited. I've been building and ideating for about 3 years now, going on 3 years with my co-founder, my mentor, colleague, Christopher Lafayette. I want to share a little bit about our project Aug Lab. And then I want to talk a little bit about our private incubator, our think tank called Holopractice. When we get, so I want to do a little bit. It's kind of pitchy for the first half of our meeting. I really want to drive home the importance and just how relevant Aug Lab is today more than anything. And then because we're in the academic setting here at the X Reality Academy, I want to switch gears and kind of put on the Holopractice hat and talk a little bit more and educate and discuss the foundations and what we call the pillars of progress and what we build technologies like Aug Lab on. And so without further ado, let me share and we'll just jump right in. Let's see here. Okay, so I can't see anyone, but I assume you guys are seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Great, thanks, Dom. Yeah, so again, I can't stress the importance of really grateful for X Reality and the Academy and this organization, this group of people that are bringing us in to talk about it. I don't think this can be talked about enough right now. We're going to be talking about augmenting the future of laboratory innovation, the lab in general, and how we can use emerging technology, tools from the metaverse to help scientists navigate any given laboratory space. Let's jump right in. So, like I said, it's never been more important to accelerate research and development, scientific breakthroughs, like our current group of historic COVID-19 vaccines. So we are in a turning point in history. We've seen this pandemic completely disrupt the way that we live, right? So we've risen to the occasion with the fastest approved group of COVID-19 vaccines. So in this process, it's very, very critical to move forward. But the steps forward towards solutions need to be calculated with high attention to detail and low error rate. So we want to move fast, but we want to move efficiently. And what gets in the way of that, to be frank, is science, right? Science is hard and errors are costly. The amount of money that we spend, so labs put in millions of dollars. Companies invest a lot of money, resources, staff, time to go through ideations and to go through different development process to finally reach a stage where they can actually submit something like an IND to the FDA, right? That's or application for a new drug to the FDA. So during that time and during that process, the friction is always, for every single group, company, research group, academic group, is always going to be documentation. The lack of reproducibility, the documentation and dependable data management that leads to all these delays, the bottlenecks in training, and millions, and actually billions if you think about the FDA and the infrastructure that they put in place for labs to be on track, right? So there's a lot of money that gets put into this, and it's always a point of friction, because if your experiment is not reproducible, let's say you find the next miracle cure, that's amazing. But if it can't be reproduced in someone else's hands, then it's worthless. It's first and foremost, it's not safe for human consumption. And there's certain guidelines that need to be met. And those things aren't met without reproducibility, documentation, and dependable data management. So imagine an AR software interface for laboratory production that helps scientists navigate any given lab space with a spatially projected shared interactive environment. So what we use is optical see-through head-mounted display that gives you those pop-ups and gives you those reminders. It's also using bidirectional voice commands. So you're talking to it, it's talking to you, and it's helping you traverse that complex topography of the lab, all of the instruments, all of the reagents, all of the different aspects of an experimental process are baked into this software. So imagine your personal lab manager or quality engineer right behind you, helping you every step of the way and reminding you to do things the right way. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into our pillars of progress and what that's built on. And moreover, it's an AI governed laboratory manager. So right now we have software and leaps. So our data is being produced at great quantities, so much so that we actually need to meet this with data management systems, right? And so right now we have great systems like laboratory information management systems that help you sort of catalog all the things that are in your lab, right? From reagents to instruments, like I was saying. That exists. Electronic laboratory notebooks exist where not everyone's just writing on paper anymore, right? We have software that can be used. We're in the digital age. So, but my point is that that's not enough, okay? Baked into this is the ability to not sit for hours at a time, having to remember or retrace every single aspect of your experimental process. Imagine just video capturing all of your notes and being able to annotate that video. Imagine how much time the lab user would save, really, being able to focus on the innovation, being able to focus on the infinite possibilities, as opposed to writing down and keeping track of everything that's happened. Now that process is important, and I'm not saying that it'll just completely eliminate it, but imagine how much easier it would be if you were able to go through a video catalog. Imagine how easier the troubleshooting would be. And so that's one of the great values of Aug Lab. And it's an interactive collaborative tool. And we'll talk about digital twins and how we're sharing lab space across the world, and why that's so important right now with travel restrictions, even though we're reaching a new stage now. But being able to collaborate with other scientists and other experts without having to travel is a key point of value here with Aug Lab. And that's what it is. It's an interactive collaborative tool. So I just wanted to point out some of the early on, we reached out and got really great feedback on what Aug Lab is tackling here. So a lot of CSOs, directors of science, all of the people that are in our network, they see clearly the problem, right? The friction of documentation and data management. And they also believe in Aug Lab as that revolutionary solution, shifting the paradigm of how we do science and how we use the lab. So just really quickly, this is a part of the business sense of it. I just want to really capture very quickly the breadth, right? I think if you look at the market through the lens, like everyone here might, most people here might be thinking from the XR lens, right? So VR, XR, the metaverse, that's coming into fruition. I think those verticals are a little more niche, but biotechnology is huge. $752 billion market, right? And if we went and we zoomed in within biotechnology, which we don't even have to when it comes to anyone using a lab, but if we did, life sciences in general, the labs that are actually researching, developing drugs and breakthroughs like the COVID-19 vaccines, that's the life science, 15.4 billion. And then the laboratory information management system, which is up and coming, it's a $1.5 billion market and rising. So this is the market that we want to dominate. What Aug Lab wants to dominate is being able to manage the lab and using that software for that purpose. 21,000 biotech companies worldwide. And I think any entrepreneur would probably know that this number is always rising, and it's fluctuating, right? Some people give up their dreams, or they'll shift their focus on one company to the next. But everyone wants to ideate, everyone wants to build. There's startups like being formed every single day. So the market is just great, and it's very, very vast. It can be used for a lot of purposes. One of the things that I wanted to bring up was the 200,000 plus clinical laboratories that are doing COVID testing, right? My background a little bit is with automated liquid handling robotics used in the lab. And we've really, really dove into the robotics to help us with reproducibility and lack of potential contamination. Being able to do these tests on robots is really crucial. And Aug Lab is a great, great source for setting that up, because there still is human intervention when that happens. So troubleshooting, being able to help the techs that are out there making these machines work. And so, and then lastly, it is recommended $60,000 per person a year to implement and actually bring a lab into the digital age. And that's just to name a small source of information there. So a little bit about our core team. That's me on the left here. So molecular biologist. I was talking about my background and my passion for robotics. My CTO is just a powerhouse. We just got through doing a wonderful event called Gatherverse Summit 2022. That was the first kickoff event for his organization. We're supporting it. It's just great. International speaker. And when I had this idea, it was really kismet in terms of who I found that could actually make this idea come to life and be manifested. And I really, really appreciate Chris as a mentor. We actually connected at the Black Technology Mentorship Program before anything. He's like, here, I want you to be involved in this as a mentor and a mentee. So really at that intersection of underrepresented communities that are in STEM, we really saw eye to eye there and really just hit the ground running in terms of our partnership. Really big highlight also, Eric Harness, our first lead advisor, former president of BioCurious, just also really, really well connected when it comes to startups, biotechnology, and launching startups and giving them that ramp. And so he sees the vision. Our interns are working hard, Uzo and Elijah. I hope they're on. I invited them on, but they're just doing great work. They believe in the project. And so we're excited. And this is a team that's really just ready to get cranking and get going, and a team that really wants to expand. So for all the participants, please reach out if this inspires you and moves you. So again, with X Reality Academy and all of our partnerships, there's a level of importance for this partnership, right? We talked about the history that we're living through. It's been pushed to the absolute limits, right? COVID-19 vaccines is a perfect example. Things need to be moved. They need to be moved faster than ever now. How do we cure? I think about the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative and their motto, their vision of curing every disease in our childhood's lifetime. How is that possible without combining this emerging technology and using the toolkit from the metaverse to equip the frontline biomedical workers with everything and all possible tools that will help improve their performance and uncover the next cure at a fraction of the time? it's a huge spectrum of what we can help with, anything in the lab. And all these processes are very, very involved, and it requires that attention, that attention that we can provide. I'm not going to spoil it. We're jumping in to another half. This is the second half, so thank you for listening to about Aug Lab. But I want to, and so I want to maybe stop here if you guys have any questions about what I just went over. So I want to see, how's everyone doing? Did we expand? Checking in.
Hi, this is E.T. Emily Troutner. I got to hear your podcasts and all of that, and and also I'm here in Santa Cruz, so I know that
nice.
We're oozing with technology, and you're a perfect example of of all of the different backgrounds, but making it for something useful. As much as I like gaming and entertainment, this is really important. We're all going to live to be 100. Breast cancer has moved a lot, but the more we learn, the more we have. The key point I want to make, and where you and I can have offline conversation, is actually resurrecting old clinical studies that kind of hit the skids, but now with the new tools, we could do that. I worked at Stanford, and they're sitting on a gold mine of old data that no one really knows. The doctors have left. Some of them have died. They were senior researchers.
Right.
So, untold clinical research that's there with genetics and tumors and preclinical animal studies. And this would just open that up. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So it's not just going future, but looking at the past and resurrecting those genes and molecules that can be resurrected for the things that we need now. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. No, thank you so much, ET, because this is actually, it's sort of foreshadowing when you think about the legacy, right? The reproducibility and reaching back into that archive of notes. It will, we're going to run into that when we dive into those records, is how well did we keep those notes? And then looking at a way to sort of transcribe those in a new format with the technology like that Emily was talking about, in terms of translating that into our technology that we have today. I think that's a great idea. And I thank you so much, Emily. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into a little bit more of an academic mindset here and talk a little bit more about Holopractice. This is a medical immersive incubator, a platform that builds for immersive exploration, health and wellness development using holographic or computer simulated visual, audio, and haptic technology. This is a huge think tank, all a bunch of nerds and geeks getting together and really asking the question, why wouldn't we equip the frontline medical workers with the best technology that's coming out today? So the bleeding edge technology. So this is a space in which we get to ideate. This is a space that if you have your own idea, like Aug Lab, right? So this is sort of the birthing place of Aug Lab, the fertile soil in which it grew. So we invite all, medical professionals, emerging technology professionals, anyone that has the idea to sort of share it and get into the pot and sort of stir it up, so that we can actually continue to ideate and build these technologies. And at Holopractice, let's see. So I call this, and I'm going to dive into a little bit of what I went through at Gatherverse Summit when I was talking about the pillars of progress and why it's so important. The Metaverse Toolkit. Here, the IEEE study shows that in 2021, companies accelerated, due to the pandemic, they accelerated the adoption of cloud computing, AI, machine learning, 5G, and AR, VR, mixed reality, right? And so I think the really relevant tech that I want to discuss here is digital twins technology. Some of the experts here might be able to give a better definition, but this is a digital recreation of objects, right? And now humans. And holoportation is taking that digital image, compressing it, sending it across the world, and being able to share it with anyone. IoT or Internet of Things is the interconnectivity of an ecosystem of devices. Very important, I think, when it comes to lab usage with all the breakthrough technology and instruments in the lab. AI, machine learning, software that can learn and grow with every use. We talk about the different ways in which we teach these systems, the neural networks like reinforced machine learning. And then obviously, lastly, and most important, I think, is the see-through HMDs, which we can nerd out a little bit about, but I think that all those combined really sets a precedence for, this is just to name a few, but these are going to be instrumental, I think, when it comes to the technology in the lab and how we can use it. Some of the use cases for these, for the toolkit is data visualization, right? The data, like I said, is being produced at massive exponential rates, right? But how are we visualizing that data? How is it being digested, right? That's important. So meeting virtually, that changed a lot. We talked about that during the pandemic. This is essentially all meetings had to be virtual. And now that's becoming more adopted. 3D conferences, I think that's exciting. So when Microsoft Mesh came out, I had that idea of like having Meshinars is what I called it. Is sort of, instead of maybe sitting in front of a talk and seeing all the data and being able to kind of talk through a two-dimensional image of a process in the lab, how about actually going into the lab with that expert? How about being able to see exactly how they handle each of those instruments, tracing every single movement? That's what a 3D conference to me is, right? That's what the technology like digital twins kind of opens up for us, that we can share that spatially projected environment. And obviously employee training, which is huge, I think, not only in the space that I'm talking about, biomedical research, but now with medical students, right? So surgery training and being able just to be familiarized with processes in a space. We have VR that can really save a lot of resources, and instead of spending those resources in the real world, we can actually get the experience and immerse people in that training process. And so that's really exciting. So I want to I want to kick it off here to the group, and I think we have a small enough group maybe to go around the table, hopefully, because I don't want this to be one-sided. But I want to ask what people think the most important quality of a good scientist is, and so and for everyone that's heard me talk about this, don't spoil it. So just if I could get, I don't know if we're raising hands, but what do we think? What do some people think about when it comes to the most important quality of a good scientist? Anyone?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I just want to say, feel free to raise your hand. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist per se, okay? I actually flunked a chemistry class in grade school, so I didn't go through science, but I ended up in oncology, okay?
Right.
Because I was curious after I got breast cancer. So I think the main thing is just wanting to learn and take care of yourself, so the curiosity and self-preservation is a big motivation. I had a great career in high tech, but I gave it all up to get into clinical research and get certified in oncology research. So that's my gig, my point.
Wow, nice. Thank you. Go ahead, Raja.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I think she just mentioned about the curiosity, and very first point from my point of view will be the extreme level of curiosity. Yep, definitely number one point. But the ability to convert your dream into reality, that kind of abilities will be go second as well, like to be a good scientist, because every time whenever a scientist is thinking some things, I mean, he or she will find out the problems. He will or she will find out show his or her curiosity, and then after he will try to find out the solutions by dreaming it, like how it will be look like if I will make that things. So that kind of ability will go to the second place as well. So I would love to say that means that will be the best quality in scientists, a good scientist.
Love it, love it. So just to recap, we got ET with self-preservation and being able to be inspired by your own experience. Rajat with the ability to sort of manifest the dream. You know, have the dream, but how do you bring that to life? And being able to articulate that to everyone else, right? I love it. We're on, and again, this is not right or wrong. I just wanted to have us be inspired so as to move to the next point, which is really, really awesome. I got all these hands up. That's great. Jim?
Well, I think science in its fundamental form is the search for truth. And so I think what often happens, and the way that we often find scientific breakthroughs, is we'll see some little thread of inconsistency in the world around us. And we start to pull on that thread. I'm sort of a scientist and I'm an engineer. And you pull on that thread to see why that thread disagrees with our understanding of things. And oftentimes by doing that, you find a new thing, you invent something new that takes care of a problem that nobody's been able to solve before. And I guess it sort of leads me to the question of, in the laboratory environment, when you're doing laboratory work, what are the signs that something is wrong, and how does that commonly right now with the current technology get found and resolved?
Jim's asking questions on questions. All right, Jim, let's save that so that we can get everyone else's answer to this. I think that's going to be tackled in the next coming slides, Jim. But if not, please keep that in mind and put a pin in that question. I love it. Who do you have? Tamara?
Hi, thank you so much. Yeah. So I think that 3 things will make a great scientist, but these 3 things often overlooked, especially in the biomedical field. But I think that once they get over that hump, it could be transformative. So the first one is being multifaceted in thinking. So it is with first principles, but it's also beyond that with critical thinking, and then being able to expand the type of ask. And I think that in a lot of ways, the coming technology is trying to address that. And so there's a lot of some things that we discover, but we don't know what to do with the information, or we don't even know the right questions to ask to even interpret the data that is received, to be able to take the science to the next level. So that's why multifaceted thinking can be helpful. Then 2 is honesty. Is sometimes you get the data back and it's frustrating, and you want it to be a certain way. You proposed a hypothesis, you proposed a question, and you like that to be answered with maybe with the hypothesis that you proposed, instead of being open to the ability that maybe it's leading somewhere completely different than you ever thought. So if you're honest with yourself and with the science itself, I think more discoveries can actually take place that can be useful, that can be utilized and practical. And then the third thing is high emotional IQ. A lot of times we know we can achieve something and we get excited about achieving something, and the timing you feel could save lives if you're just a little bit faster. But because of that, you want to rush you want to rush the data, you want to rush the experiments, and you get a bunch of gobbledygook back. Then now you have to spend more time to fix, or then a lot of people can get hurt and your business can shut down, and then it's not profitable at all. And so it's a negative all the way around. So I think with multifaceted thinking, honesty, and a high emotional IQ, I think science can be very transformative and go to the next level.
Okay, this is fascinating. This is great. This is great, and I love the honesty. I'd call it integrity, right? Like you're talking about being honest, honest with each other, but honest with yourself. I think of integrity there. And most people think of like data and like being able to like report what's happening with the data when they hear integrity in science. But I think it's deeper, like you had mentioned. Like the integrity is the honesty with yourself, right? Being able to just be okay with what's coming at you, and be open to those possibilities. I love it. I love it. I'm almost scared now because my where I'm gonna go here is gonna be a little bit different. But I do appreciate everyone's feedback. Dom, you wanna wrap it up, and then I'll move forward.
Yeah, sure. I personally think ethic is really important, like integrity, for example, like empathy and humanity. Recently, I saw like a Ukraine's war, right? I saw a lot of highly advanced scientists that they create a lot of powerful bombs or weapons, right? Absolutely. Those are great science invention, right? But it's a tool. How can we do good instead of doing bad? Because I just saw some news like Antarctica, right? The degrees, like the temperature is like raised to 30 or 40s, right? And if we are keeping doing this, we are destroying ourselves. So yeah, how can scientists have the mind and thinking about how can, use this tool to do better things instead of destroy ourselves? Yeah.
Right. That's great. And it reminds me of Gatherverse and really what the talk was there. We have to ask ourselves the why, right? We really have to ask ourselves why we're, not just to create it. Why are we creating this? Or why are we asking these questions? And really, if I could, this reminds me of a phrase that I'm trying to coin, or I'm trying to get out there, which is research and reverence. And researching and reverence means to really understand, to have the connection. So in terms of the creator of all, and being able to see what he's creating, and understanding that we're just here to get more answers. And so when we get those answers, it's a gift, right? It's not something that sort of, that we should puff our chest up about. We should actually just be grateful and be in reverence to understanding nature and our universe. So that, with that though, all of these good points are very, very important. And in keeping in line with the sort of the trajectory of what we're talking about here, when it comes to the metaverse, all of the tools that we're using, I submit, at least for the sake of this, the next slide is the most important quality, which is interesting. Some people might have touched on it a little bit, but I didn't hear it specifically, but I feel it's the attention to detail. So I think Jim talked a little bit when we were talking about the string that you're pulling. So if you're just pulling the string and just throwing the string everywhere and and just kind of being rambunctious like Tasmanian devil, that's like the opposite to me of a good scientist. If you're pulling the string and you're asking what's happening when you pull that string, that's the attention to detail, right? And more importantly, being able to, like we talked about, leaving the legacy of that attention, right? How do you document that attention to detail? And so attention to detail is what we're going to talk about. And I want to give a little brief history. And I think many people that have clinical, like Emily, I'm sure you know this man, Sir Alexander Fleming, right? And his discovery of the first antibiotic, penicillin, in 1928. So in 1928, or around that time, the story goes, maybe not in the textbook, but from some fellow scientists, is that Alexander went on vacation. Okay, he was doing his research in his lab. He took a break, right? And so with his stacks and stacks of plates in the lab, no one was really there to, I don't think there was lab tech. I mean, I don't know. There was no one cleaning up this stack of plates. So he left for a period of time, right? He came back and he found that on one of his plates, one of the hundreds of whatever, all of the stacks of plates that he had in his lab, on one of them, there was an area in which the bacteria didn't grow. So that was that attention. So if he would have come in and he would have said, look at this mess, someone clean it. This is all trash. Or, but if he didn't have that attention to detail, right, we wouldn't have been able to cure numerous infections. We wouldn't have had that turning point for surgeons to be able to do more invasive procedures. And I think less than 2 decades after, you know, a turning point when it comes to World War II and being able to help the soldiers on the field there. So when I talk about attention to detail, I have, you know, those are the kind of things that I'm talking about, right? And I think that in a way, there were some people that touched on this. Is like, when you get a result, what is your reaction to it? How closely are you paying attention to that detail? And how can we use that detail to delve even further into questions? Okay, and so follow me really quick. This is I actually, just as a aside, while I was working for biophysics biochemistry department at UCSF, in the lab, we worked with a fungal pathogen called Cryptococcus neoformans. And I remember we did this was the first complete gene deletion collection in this background, right? So we would make plates exactly like the one that Alexander Fleming is holding up, right? We would make plates, and we would plate these fungus on for freezing, right? So if we had created the mutant successfully, we would plate them and then we would freeze them down. So I was one day I was in the lab and I saw a plate that was completely like crusty looking. It was completely off, and it was like actually, you know, where the crusty patch was kind of like, you know, spreading. And so when I looked at it, at first glance, I was like, oh man, you know, contamination. Got to throw this plate away. I got to start from scratch. But it was my mentor at the time that said, wait, hold on, wait, before you throw that away, let me take a look at that. And that actually became a paper that was published in Cell of a mutant that actually was a crucial part of a biological pathway. So those are the kind of things that I'm talking about in terms of attention to detail. And now I want to, you know, and with that, I want to ask us how emerging technology like mixed reality, like AR, like the technology of Aug Lab, how can that help us focus on the finite so that we can really open our minds to the infinite? So the intersection, always, these two pillars, these two institutions is, you know, science and medicine, and always at that intersection has been technology, right? And so what I like to see, what you know, the group at Holopractice and Aug Lab, we see medical XR and the metaverse as that sort of overlapping technology that can help really, really be a conduit between the science and the medicine. And that's really what we want to do with the technologies that we're talking about. Comprehensive collaboration that we talked about, accelerating training, and increasing that productivity or increasing that attention to detail. Okay, so I think what her name is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who discovered or came up with the theory of the 5 stages of grief, also came up with the 7 stages of change. And this is really important because what I want to talk about also is another quality, which just adds to all of the great thoughts here in the discussion, is the ability to pivot. Now, I know anyone that's been in the lab, anyone that does research, in any point in time, even when you're starting a business, especially as an entrepreneur or a leader or a pioneer, the ability to pivot, right, quickly, resiliently, being able to bounce back when things don't go your way, the ability to change is crucial. But according to this psychiatrist here, these are the different stages. First, there's a shock, then there's disbelief. Self-doubt, right? That goes into what I think, Emily, you were talking about, being able to have that self-awareness. You go through that self-doubt, then you finally have the acceptance. You do some experimentation, you find the meaning behind that change, and then you're ready to integrate that change. Now you're ready to stand fully behind it as a scientist, as a technologist. Okay, so what we like to think of medical XR and the technologies that we're building is sort of a way to sort of bridge that gap. And I think a great example of this is the technology in the hospitals, right? It takes a long time. It's a very, very excruciating process to have doctors adopt new technologies. I went one of the companies that I worked for was specialized in next generation sequencing, right? So this post-genomic era, we learn a lot, personalized medicine when it comes to sequencing our genome. This is huge. I mean, it's great, and it has data to back up its utility, but it's still about the change, and it's still about being able to go through this ebb and flow, these peaks and valleys, even on an institutional level, like being able to adopt this for a hospital. Now it's happening, and now you can see that happening. And so, but it's a slow turn, right? I feel that medical XR has the ability to bridge that gap to accelerate those technologies even quicker, so that it's not such a robust, complex thing, that we can actually guide people and train people faster, so that we can transfer technology even quicker. So another question, I love these because I want to open that up. What happens when a scientist makes a mistake? Okay, and so before, and this is, I think mainly, I want to make a point that it's overlooked. By the general public, I think it's overlooked. You don't really typically hear about scientists making a mistake. And let me be clear, there's two different there's a branch point here, right? There is happy mistakes, right? Bob Ross, like there's mistakes that that have to be repeated. So maybe you have to repeat an experiment. It still takes time. It still takes money. It takes resources, right? But you learn things. So there's a learning process on one branch of it. But then what we don't want to focus on too much here, and this is mainly because what we want to do with this technology is be able to overcome this. The second branch of a mistake, or the type of mistake, is just bad laboratory practice. That's why I was talking about the FDA. FDA spends billions of dollars for what's called GXP. So good laboratory practice, good manufacturing practice. There's pillars there. This is something that is established and shared among all laboratories, right? And infrastructure that's guiding. So bad laboratory practices, like failure to document something, or even worse, like something, that in terms of lack of integrity for data that you're producing, or making up, inventing your data. Those bad practices were not necessarily focused on. What I want to know is what happens when a scientist makes a mistake that we can learn from. Okay, and so at Holopractice and at Aug Lab, we build on what we call the pillars of progress. And these are major concepts in which we want to, this is where the intersection between medical XR, all of the immersive technology that we're talking about, this is how we can help people in the laboratory and in hospital settings as well. So hospital training and in the clinical labs as well. So the first is perceptual alignment. And I'm gonna go through each of these in detail for the sake of us, learning a little bit more about what we are building here. So the second, time immersion, and the third, human-centered technology transfer. Okay, so I just want to point out, like I think this image of the different parts of the mind, or the different parts of the human. I think there's studies that have come out about multitasking. Right, this is not possible, really. I think people have. We're learning a lot more about our ability to multitask. But if you've ever been in the lab, it's almost impossible not to have to, right? We have a lot of different experiments going on. And so how can we keep ourselves focused? How can we keep our perception aligned while we're going through that process? Let's talk about it. So the classic example of perceptual alignment is the lane assist. It takes a second for you to lose focus and for a major car accident to happen. With the lane assist technology for cars, it's a good example because it helps drivers focus on the road. Okay, so think about this. It takes also a split second for a really, really horrible contamination to happen. Weeks, maybe months, maybe even years of experimental progress lost in a second, right? Perceptual alignment in the lab could be something as simple as a nudge, an alert, the holographic guidelines telling you that's the wrong well to pipette in, or that's actually the wrong volume in that you're taking, so that the details, every movement being tracked and being corrected. So decision making in the lab is very, very important. So think about our ability to come in to a process very, very new in your training. You don't, there's a lot of, so for an experiment or a lab process, there are different points of that process that are more forgiving. There are other points of the process that are really, really stringent, that need to be really paid attention to. So imagine if you didn't have to worry about all that. Imagine if there was your software keeping track of those things, like giving you those alerts to be aware. That even helps the more seasoned and more expert users, because when it comes to sort of that, just moving that muscle memory, those are when mistakes happen too. We've done this process 10,000 times, right? I've set up a PCR 10,000 times. But what happens when I'm setting that up in the wrong way? I need that alert to keep me focused. Time immersion. Here we have an image of a person submerged in water. Now, VR, for example, this technology has been used, I think, a lot in psychology to overcome different phobias, right? Imagine, like I was talking about with the Meshinars, and looking through the eyes of a scientist, but looking through the eyes of an expert, right? This person that has done this process so well and has done it, this 10,000 times. Imagine being able to see through that lens. Imagine what a person that's barely coming into the lab feels when they can see through that lens. Imagine how training would be different. Imagine being able to see every nuanced movement, the angle in which the person is holding that pipette, right? Now, the laboratory isn't as cumbersome. Now it's not as intimidating. You can, with the immersive experience over time, it helps you to get more comfortable with the lab and its complex topography. And finally, human-centered technology transfer. So a good way to understand this is what it's not. So we're moving we're shifting that paradigm from two-dimensional, a paper protocol. Step one, pick the tube, take the tube, mix the tube, mix the contents of the tube, and then transfer this amount of liquid to another one, right? That's very easy. But how are you mixing it? Are you vortexing it? Are you pipetting up and down? What are you paying attention to? These are the things that for HCTT, that concept there actually really it transforms the paper protocol to an actual person protocol. So how do you do it, Imani? Or how do you finish that complete that clinical process, Emily? Like, I want to be able to reach into the nuances of your mind, and then in the way that you do this process. How much can we discover when it comes to user variability? How much more impactful can it be when we're solving and doing troubleshooting? So any quality engineer would understand, like the root cause analysis, the failure modes effects analysis, all of these different tools that we use to make sure that our work in the lab is quality is now made even more robust with human-centered technology transfer. Like, if it's the difference between saying, yeah, I did that process. What process? Yeah, the experiment that's on that paper, I did it. Okay, you did it. How did you do it? That's the question that we're asking here. So I think this is really important, finally, because of being a scientist, because I think it's important to understand how we measure this. This is sort of a preliminary framework for our metrics, right? We want to see the reproducibility. That's precision, accuracy, consistency between experiments. This is the way that we measure it. Performance. So, usually it could take up to 6 months for an entry level. Like, let's say this person is fresh out of college, right? Excited, but they've never been in a real lab. They've only done maybe the school labs that always, these experiments always work. It was a big culture. It was a shock to me when I left college and I went to UCSF and nothing was working for me. And so I learned a lot, but how can we reduce that time, the time it takes for people to be efficient, and start asking real scientific questions sooner? So their aptitude, the human error, and then the attitude, right? The overall user experience. We talked a little, I heard someone, I think it was Emily, talking about gaming. Why can't we make it fun? You know, why can't we make it, why can't the lab user have a personal best that they want to achieve? You know, last month you did this many experiments, this many errors. This month you did less errors. You're getting better. Now I can print that out, or I can take that frame shot and I can share it with my manager. That manager can share it with the director of R&D, and that director of R&D can share it with the CFO. We can see how our technology is affecting all the way up from the ground up in terms of performance, and how that translates to progress, whether it's financial or whether it's making more discoveries quicker. It's all progress. And I think I think that could be fun for that person, for that user. So user experience is really, really important. And I know there's a lot of great hackers out there that could help with that in building that technology and making that framework possible. So these are the metrics. I wanted to, oh no. There was a handsome picture here of, and we can, you'll just have to imagine him. Dr. Martin Chalfie, I want to end with sort of his inspiration. And this is Nobel laureate in 2008 that won the Nobel Prize for the development of the green fluorescent protein. A lot of scientists know it, a lot of scientists use it. It has changed the way we study cell biology, biomarkers. And really, when I was given the opportunity to meet him, my cohort at UC Santa Cruz sat down with him, and the way that he talked was amazing. And I really invite you to listen to him. And it would be awesome if actually we could get him. This is a holopractice dream of mine, to sit down with this man, because the way he thinks about science is really similar to how we're talking about. You wouldn't think about it, but this really seasoned scientist, Nobel laureate, said many discoveries are accidental, right? I think there's a key point here I want to make with when he talked about the fresh minds in his lab. So when he was talking about his lab, he wanted to we were talking about those entry level, fresh out of college, you know, they're or maybe even high school if they're working in the university. They don't know what's possible and what's not yet. Their minds haven't been molded into that stringency. He talked about keeping their minds there. He talked about being able to really encourage the questions like, why not? Why can't we do this? What is the biological limitation here? Because those are the minds that actually reach past the limitations. Those are the minds that are innovating. And so I thought to myself, you know, this is exactly why we want to accelerate training. We don't want a half a year or a year to go by. We want to accelerate the training for, you know, let's say, in 3 months, these entry-level lab users can start asking those questions, can start asking those really, really far off, out of the box questions. And I think that's important. And I think that Aug Lab has the ability to really flatten the learning curve, to keep STEM exciting for young people, for the malleable minds, and to really, really help really progress the next generation of discoverers. And I'm really sad I didn't get this picture. Handsome man and an awesome man. I would just encourage anyone to look him up. Very inspirational when he talks. So I want to end here. The mistakes and failures can be the doorway to innovation. So what happens when a scientist makes a mistake? There's a possibility for innovation. That's what Aug Lab helps us to do. Again, Aug Lab is focused on the finite so our minds can focus on the infinite. on the possibilities. This is what we should be thinking of. This is the creative, open scientists that we want to be. We want to ask those questions. We want to open those doors. And we also want to do it calculated and carefully. How about Aug Lab, a software that can focus on those finites, keep those parameters in place for you, and keep that audit trail very, very transparent and fluid, so that we can focus on what we should be focusing on, which is the new breakthrough technology. It's the curing, all diseases in our childhood's lifetime. And so I really appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone here. These are just some links I want to share with you. Obviously, Holopractice. Again, if you have an idea, if it is an idea about what I've presented, please join. Our Elijah Uzo, our interns, connected through that platform. Again, Aug Lab birth was, that was the fertile soil that birthed Aug Lab. So Holopractice is a great space for ideation. I welcome you all. Check out the Aug Lab. Gatherverse is a really, this is a brand new platform that my CTO, Chris, is running. Here's our emails down here. So our up and coming event for Gatherverse event is Free Spring Mental Wellness Summit, happening May 24th through 25th. And this is really on a different subject. Mental health is an immersive problem. Like this is a huge problem. And again, similar to the way I'm speaking about rising to meet the needs of the frontline medical workers, how can we use emerging technology to help mental wellness, right? And so I encourage you all to join the event, sign up to speak at the event, just be a part of the community, and contribute to your community, whether it's your micro or the global ones. There's a lot going on right now, and we want to be connected. We want to help as much as we can. So thank you. So
yeah.
and definitely ready to talk more. Do we have time?
Yeah, I think we have time. Yeah. So any questions or anything? Yeah, Emily or Tapra.
Yes,
yeah, I see some of the,
I'm excited. Like I say, I am here in Santa Cruz, and I know exactly where you're coming from. And there's like so much new tech, and I am working with other groups to actually teach kids, and the kids are smart and they're multilingual. We don't have to do everything in English. Hablo español.
Yeah, claro que sí.
So, y mujeres también, women, and actually I'm now in a senior part, and there's a lot of really sharp seniors. They're retired engineers, and the ladies are retired justices of the courts, and there's a gold mine there. So I hope to bring them into the queue and give them some VR glasses to play with. So
absolutely, yeah,
my
absolutely.
Senior lab here.
Yeah.
But I would like to champion your cause, and help spread the word, because I think we don't want to go the VC route and all the traditional silicon crap that I did when I was, growing up and doing my businesses. So, we'll connect offline. And also I'll invite you, or if I may, with Dom's permission and your permission, borrow your videos and share them with some of my tech groups in research. It's hard to herd doctors into one meeting at one time. So
tell me about it.
Their leisure, if that's okay. And
exactly.
And the other point I wanted to make is that what really turns me off about research is that publish or perish. Even the young doctors, they get beat up like a piñata, and I would help them. We spend my weekends writing articles that we knew weren't right, because you can't say who was deleting these quality questions or these certain endpoints that weren't reached. Oh no, just forget that. Just get the important part, because we got to get it in there. And I'm hoping that mindset will change, that this curiosity, and it's a never-ending story, will be accepted, and you just keep building rather than try and self-promote or, get a grant because you had 10 articles that were really full of bullshit,
Right. Yeah, so, that's like, really, it's important how we affect the ecosystem, right? And I think that this sort of flattening that I foresee with this technology, I really hope that it kind of takes us away from the, I don't know, I don't want to, sort of like a bitterness, right? Like I've spent 10 years doing this research, you have to listen to me, or sort of that mentality, you know, that doesn't allow for those new minds to ask questions. No, it has to be like this, like you said, publish or perish. I really hope that we can change the stigma and really start creating new culture. So I totally 100% agree. Thank you, Emily.
And Dom is a gamer, so I want the gamification of science, just like you said. You know?
Yeah, I do. I do think, you know, like a lot has been when it comes to gaming, you know, you're inspired a lot, like discovery mode or inspector mode. We want that in the lab. We want to be able to go into that mode and be able to highlight the things that are really important for us. That's what Aug Lab has the ability to do. So I do want it to draw upon those features as well and make it really beautiful in that way when it comes to the design and the development. Yeah. So we have other hands too.
Jean, I think Jean.
Yes. It looks like you're going to need computer vision to verify some of the steps in your laboratory work. And which leads me to the question, have you developed a prototype of your system yet? And do you have you filed any patent applications? So
no and no. And this is, I do want to comment in terms of the first half, you know, this is the vision, the blueprint, right? And even though Emily was like, we don't want to go the VC route, we are in the process of looking for funding, right? If it's an angel investor, but this is the main use of those funds will be to build out a prototype with a skeleton crew, lay roots down in our own laboratory space, and start alpha beta testing. So that it's an exciting time. We're raising money for that very thing, Jim. And the patents, I've been doing some research on that, but have not yet filed or preliminarily filed yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next one, Raja.
Yes, thank you so much, Dominic and Hipólito, for organizing this event. First of all, I really enjoyed this event and learned a lot of things in this time. I would love to share something. This is my first time actually I joined with you guys, but my profession is I'm working as a data analyst. And that's why you mentioned something about database management systems like laboratory information management system. And I was very curious and I was excited on that time. So yeah. I really wanted to learn more about that LIMS system as well. So I will contact with you, Dominic, or Hipólito later, like offline. And because my everyday routine is to work with database management studio. And in technical things, I am working closely with SQL Server Management Studio, if you are familiar with that. So, and also
what kind of environments?
SQL Server Data Management System. Yeah. Yep. So that things I work with SQL Server Management Studio. But the most important thing is that means I also do some data analytics things in which actually I have to work with a lot of data in retail sector. And then after I have to analyze on those data and finally needed to make a visualization, as you mentioned about that. So I also use a couple of visualization tools as well. And the main important thing is that my main goal actually to convert or transform my interest a little bit in upper level. Like let's say, for example, currently we are working with data analytics, not with augmented reality, but with virtual reality. But I was thinking like that, how I can connect those data analytics with augmented reality and virtual reality. So I can show this all the graphs or graphics like in visualization form. So it will give you the better insights and also like depth analysis of the data, you know. So that things, I was very curious on that. Actually, I'm working on that too. One experience I would love to share with you guys, that means last like 3 months back, I had my senior vice president birthday. So I was thinking like that, let me celebrate that birthday in like a unique style by using the that interactive technology. And I made one experience of birthday celebrations like in augmented reality by using Unity 3D. I imported like 2 videos. Like in one video, my senior vice president's picture was that like video. And in another video, my team members who wanted to wish the like birthday to my senior vice president. So I imported those 2 videos and I was able to experience that video in augmented reality by using the iPhone. So I made only for iOS device, not for Android device, because I had not enough time for coding and all that thing. So I am make only for iOS devices on all the things. So that was my first thing. But yeah, I'm very curious to learn more and more, like in augmented reality and virtual reality. I can see the future, to be honest, like in data analysis side. Actually, I'm doing a lot of research on that. The thing is that if we will, I will show the visualization in some interactive form. It not only will give the opportunity, but it will enhance your interest and like company's interest as well. So we have to do a little bit, move fast forward than our competitors. Like sometimes competitors used to work like in 1990s or 1980s technologies, but if we will do we will use some like interactive technology and we will use it in the real time, then maybe we can give the like in-depth analysis and depth data analytics kind of thing. So that was the thing. But yes, I would love to talk with you about the Metaverse platform as well, Ippolito. Would love to, I'm planning to make a development by using Unity 3D and also Unreal Engine, but I don't know like who are making others. Actually, I'm finding some people like in Meetup and Eventbrite, but yeah, hopefully if I'll find so many developer, then I think our like let's say if our interests are matching to develop something, and if like 2-3 people are working together for one interest, then it will give the better result, instead of I am working alone. So that's why that was my main goal as well, to join with you guys. Yeah, but thank you so much, Ippolito, Dominic. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. That's great. I'm excited about the work.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, actually, I saw the Holopractice right now, and it's a kind of more like a XR training, using XR to train like a medical and technology, like as a training platform. And actually, X Reality Academy, our team is going to launch a platform pretty soon, within this month. Yeah, we've already built, I would say, probably 70-80% done. Yeah, and we have kind of advisor helping us to kind of guide our team 8 designers, but they can, we are doing more like using Editor X, which is more designer driven, but require a little bit coding. Once there's like some data syncing, we kind of ask for our developers to help us. So right now, everything so far working really well. And as for our platform, we are kind of like, because I run this meetup for almost 3 years, and I find out the problem about everyone is that, I know XR is going to be big, but where can I learn XR, right? And you see like there are a lot of platforms there, right? And it requires like $4,000 to $7,000 just per one class VR course, right? And taught by a celebrity, right? Like a celebrity in XR field. But for me, you don't really need celebrity to teach you. You need someone who know how to do it to teach you, right? So that's why I am breaking like the rules. Like I want to make the platform so affordable, like $45, and all you can eat. And I want to open, like as long as you work in XR for 3 to 4 or 5 years as a developer working on something and something works, I believe you are qualified to create a course. So we are going to train you to create course. And we are also have like a mentorship, and we use gamification, XR coins. So yeah, and later on we want to, doing something similar to Reddit. For example, like I believe that some people might know something, and I believe everyone has something to offer. So maybe, if someone posts a question, whoever gets the highest vote can get the coins, and the coins will be the currency inside the platform. And in the future, we are going to migrate to more like XR, the glass or VR one. Right now, it's just, I feel like not many people has those glasses, and those are too chunky. I couldn't wear VR glass for more than 40 minutes. So that's why I feel like for teaching, right now I stay in more like traditional way, which is video. However, maybe in the future, when the wearable device getting better, we will migrate the platform in there, right? Now, I mean, if you are interested, I can show you the platform. Maybe there's a way that, because we are all training, right? And we also integrate with mentorship. And right now it's B2C. In the future, probably we can do B2B. So yeah, and we are drafting contract and all the legal stuff. Yeah, so if you are interested, we probably can talk offline. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, holopractice is, I think, the main, how it started was medical training. And then it just expanded to all these other aspects of our focus. But definitely one of the main approaches and the main focus is education. And so I'm all for it, and I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can set up another meeting. And I think Gigi, do you have any questions? Do you want to unmute yourself? I saw you put on the chat.
No, I was just noting in here that there's a lot of folks doing pieces of this puzzle in terms of the learning and education side. And I added virtual film school into the mix, that they have the sort of same question: how do I not use video to teach video? And so there's folks who have some good footprints in the sand ahead on the learning side of this. So glad to talk to anybody about that. I tend to hang out in the learning and education space of immersive and multi-platform. So
Gigi's the Yoda. Gigi's like the Yoda of this all, and so she's like, I've seen it. There's a lot of history behind what we're attempting to do, right? I think that with the metaverse, like, people think this is brand new, but there's a lot of people that have spent a lot of years building these platforms, right? And so I appreciate the wisdom of Gigi, and I hope we could put in the show notes, or extend to the group here, the podcast that just aired with me and Gigi. Had a cool conversation, and that was really, really fun. I've been sharing it around my ecosystem, my community. There it is, creative innovators. And so, yeah, I really appreciate the collaboration. Why I was stressing that in my presentation is that co-development, collaboration is so important right now. And I really appreciate X Reality Academy here for hosting this event and keeping us, keeping us fresh, keeping our minds open, malleable to all of these processes, right? So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ippolito. Like you are having like such a wonderful presentation, and for me, I really appreciate like all the refreshing stuff. I mean, my background is user experience design and also not scientist, but recently because I just went to the lab and get my blood.
Right.
So I totally understand how important that is, because, like a lot of data, even though I don't really know what will, show up on my report. But yeah, I know, I really respect people who work on that and doing all those hard work. And Jim, do you have any questions?
I just wanted to say something to you, Dom, and that's we recovered pretty well this morning.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I feel like, even though I got like 5 tubes of blood just getting out, and I have my period right now, and I feel like I'm bleeding every minute. But I feel like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's like the spirit is strong, and I forgot like in my body. So right. And I really love the topic. So that's why I kind of like every Saturday, there's always something here. So if you want to come back or, join other event, feel free. And and I really want everyone to go to XR, right? Yeah, so that's kind of the goal. Like we are kind of facilitating together and make more and more people aware of this and join this big party. Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. And any other questions? Any other questions last minute? Okay, cool. Then thank you, Ippolito. And I will kind of reach out to you offline. Yeah, cool.
Definitely. Thank you all. Look forward to talking offline to everyone. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for all of my family. So some of my staff I think showed up. Uzo, my family, my sister Vale, Gigi for being the Yoda of it all. Jim, Emily, everyone's, Rajat, all your contributions are just great. Had a great conversation. Thank you, Tamara, too. And I hope to connect with you all offline and in the future.
Yeah,
thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.